Okay, so how did I do it? 84 books isn't really that much. It's not really like that impressive of a number, in my opinion. I mean, I'm very happy with my effort. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like this outrageous Reddit front page Reddit number, right? It's just something I strive to be. Don't get me wrong, but 84 books over 365 days. That works out to about one every 4 days. And I was kind of going into the year with the expectation that I wanted to read a lot this year, because this was sort of my like I had finished a year in a Fortune 500 company. I had already been out of college for a year, and I knew I was just going to have a lot of free time, so I needed to like educate myself somehow. And I guess this is sort of the result. There's also other things that I was doing. I wasn't just reading. If I was just reading, I think I would have read a lot more. But there was definitely some stretches, like 2-week stretches, where maybe I was on a trip or something where I didn't really read that much. So let's talk about this. First thing I'll say is that anything that you track will tend to improve just by virtue of tracking it. Like a lot of people, when they begin, for example, their weight loss journey, the one thing they can just do is just simply weigh themselves every day. That kind of creates mindfulness about your goals. And if one of my goals was learning and improving myself, then keeping track of the books that I read was my small way of doing it. Now, you need to be really careful about this because it's like a monkey's paw sort of thing. I think because I did that, it may have motivated me to read things quicker with less depth, read shorter books generally, value completion over true value to my life. Mostly the biggest problem is the reading short things, less important things. But regardless, I think that if you're beginning to read, it's important to just do it more than worry about, what Oxford says you should read or something stupid like that. So, with that being said, there was a few themes that kept popping up over and over. This is the first thing I'll talk about. Is I have this stack here, the George Orwell stack. This is 5. I actually only read these 4. I haven't read this one, Burmese Days, but I did also read like Animal Farm. I think maybe one more, but those are just in a library or something. That guy is like an early sociological writer. You probably know George Orwell. I don't need to say that much about him. Maybe not the other works though. He's most famous for 1984, I think, and probably Animal Farm, which are works of fiction. But these other ones, Homage to Catalunya, for example, of like him fighting fascists, like him fighting in a communist for the commies. It's like pretty cool. And this one too, maybe my favorite book I've ever read, just in general. It's called Down and Out in Paris and London. The other author that showed up a lot this year was this guy right here. Here's 3. This is Sigmund Freud. This is Freud. The first, I think, thing that I got was this right here when I went on a trip to London. The Question of Lay Analysis. This is just like a little thing where he's just writing about how you can be a psychoanalyst and not a doctor. I got this one as well, the same place in London, Totem and Taboo. It's like a really old copy, which is nice. You can see it says like $1.45 right there, which is wild. Can't get a book for that much. And then finally in Spain, I got this nice one, The Basic Writings of Sigmund Freud, which is, it has Totem and Taboo and a bunch of other books. This is like a bunch of books in one book, that. And what these two guys have in common is like a big sociological thing, obviously psychoanalytical thing, right? The other thing that showed up a lot, I only have like 3 examples and they're kind of loose, is like Eastern studies, right? So this is the Bhagavad Gita. This is Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. This doesn't really have anything to do with Zen. This is just writing advice, but Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I'm not sure. This is my friend's book, but themes of India, themes of Asian philosophy and Asian religions. I was just consuming that a lot. which kind of ties to my point to answer the question, how did I do this? I read what I wanted to read when I wanted to read it. In fact, the time that my like education and consumption, like quality consumption rate dipped was when I was enrolled in college and I had assigned readings of like some lame shit I didn't really care about, like interpretation of interpretation, you know what I mean? I had a test on Freud actually, and they gave us like a few paragraphs of like some academic description of his, and I don't think I read it. I think that I passed the exam based on just what I had read in my personal time. The other thing that I want to talk about that I read a lot this year, or that I was practicing, although I only have like one concrete example, it's not really representative of the full effort, but that's the Spanish language. This is Diario de Greg Dos. This is the first like cover-to-cover Spanish book that I ever read. I'm very proud of this, and I think that I'm going to try and make it a goal to like read a few more. Maybe not Diario de Greg specifically, but some Spanish book cover-to-cover. I kind of have the notion that I will read less. By this time, I think I had already read like 3 books in 2024. They were about like productivity and stuff like that. Now, I want to be productive and not like read about being productive. I feel like a lot of reading can be distractive or distracting and sort of unnecessary, to be honest. I feel like reading is important. I'm glad that things are documented. I like reading, but I think it's more important to like write at a certain point. And I feel like I'm kind of getting there. I will see though, because it is obviously something I love to do. It is something that I feel is important. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes in 2025. Yeah, well, thanks for watching.